Haribol, another most sacred special day here in Radhakund, where we're live streaming out. Today is the 6th of November, correct? 5th of November. And it's Tuesday, 5th of November, 2024. And today, of course, is the Tirobhava of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who, for the Western devotees in particular, we basically owe our lives to him. I don't think there's any devotee in the Western world who doesn't have that same feeling. But we'll have our kirtan, and then we'll begin to describe something of his glories and his writings in particular, his teachings. So we'll sing our kirtan. Namamishwaram Satchit Anandarupam Yasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamana Yasodahiyon Kalatavamanam Param Vistam Adyanta Muhurnetra Yubram Vijantam Karam Bojayumena Satantanetram Muhusvasvaka Patriye Hantakanta Sita Iti Krishvanilavi Ananda Kunde Svaroshami Majantam Amyaprayantam Tadeishita Nesho Bhaktya-jitavam Punaprematastam Satam Param Deva Mokshanda Mokshavadimva Lakanya Premeha Parishadapira Idam Tevapo Nata Gopalavalam Sada Nemanya Idam te mukhan bojam avyakta nirare Vritam kuntarai smigdam rakshascha bhokya Mohuskumvitam bimbharatadharam me Manasya vishvam alam lakshayulavye Namo Deva Damoda Ananta Vishnu Prasida Rabodokra Jalavimata Kripadristi Vrisyati Ilam Vatanu Rehani Sharma Madhya Ekyakshabhishya Vedavajyo Bhavya Mutyai Vayadva Vayo Muchito Bhakti Vajo Kritocha Tata Prema Bhakti Swakam Me Prayacha Namo Shiravo Misti Damodareya Namaste Studam Nismurati Nityanande Vadiyodharayasa Vishwasya Name Namo Radhikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Natsarinaya Devaya Turyam Namo Radhikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Natsarinaya Devaya Turyam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Jai Guru Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Guru Jaya Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe 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 Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhari Radha Damadaju Ki Jai Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai Sachinandana Gaudahari Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tirobhava Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Astotas Darshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Astotas Darshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudiya Vedanta Acharya ki jai. Jai Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya ki jai. Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Jai Shri Rup, Sanatan, Shri Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal, Bharadasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's ki jai. Arupa Nuga Guru Varga ki jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Siga Hosti Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi, Shri Gauda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur, Simantadvip, Gautandvip, Madhyadvip, Koladvip, Ritudvip, Chanadvip, Motandvip, Budadvip, Hapganavadvip, Tam ki jai. Baduravan, Bandiravan, Bailvan, Lohavan, Mahavan, Madhuvan, Talvan, Kamudvan, Bahulavan, Vrindavan, Kadiyavan, Kamyavan, Brajamandal ki jai. Shishi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwarasavar Matmika Shri Brajamandal ki jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ganga Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Maharani ki jai. Shrimati Brinda Devi Maharani ki jai. Shrimati Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi Maharani ki jai. Gopishwa Mahadev ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra ki jai. Ketra Mandal ki jai. Sarva Vigna Vanasakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Charadam ki jai. Chari Sampradaya ki jai. Charya Charya ki jai. Akada Mat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Magina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshush Ummilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadaliye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shnapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamayam Tadati Swapatantikam Priya Swarupe Dayata Sarupe Prema Sarupe Sahachavirupe Nijana Rupe Papueka Rupe Tatana Rupe Swavilasa Rupe Anapitachirim Chirat Kuranavartino Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swavakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatam Vasatipita Sadahradare Kandare Sparatu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantamana Peti Krityam Dvaipayino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tamayatayo Taravo Vinidus Tam Sarabhutam Hridam Munumanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparara Lakshay Shiptas Chakarma Chakarangamaje Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Tatam Mamanasti Katina Tapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charantikam. And first of all, offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazarashi Shimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering millions of obeisances unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Leela, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazarashi Shimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And to all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevicha, Patitanam Pavanivyo, Vaishnavena Namaha. So today is the Tirobhava, disappearance day of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. 47 years ago today, he left this world. So it's a very special occasion for us to remember his munificence, his kindness, his immense greatness in every single way. I think it's really and truly only Western devotees that can really appreciate fully the magnitude of what Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave. We were, and sometimes still are, animals. Completely. India is a civilized country. It has a history of civilization. Western world is basically barbaric from thousands of years. They were just living in forests and so on, 5,000 years ago. So he came, no one else came, only he came. It had been indicated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati that one person would come. And who was it? Bhakti Prem Pradeep went, Hriday Bon Maharaj went, and who was the other one? There was three. Bhakti Prem Pradeep, Hriday Bon Maharaj, and one more. Bon Maharaj, I said, yes. Bhakti Hriday Bon Maharaj. And then there was three of them. But they were looking to influence the higher class of society. And they didn't actually make practically any bhaktas, maybe one or two. I think one German lady. Yes. If you go to a place in London, there's a place in Wilson Court, and they have a temple there. But basically the preaching didn't set fire to the Western world in the same way that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada did. At that time, there was the hippie movement was prominent. That meant that young people were disenchanted with the material society. They lost their faith in the war in Vietnam at the time, in the whole government system and setup, and they were opposed to the materialistic control and government, etc. So that's a very ripe field to plant this Krishna consciousness, because they didn't know who was God. This was the point. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he came with a mission to bring Krishna to the Western shores. And he did that in 10 brief years, basically. He was born in 1896, and he came in 1966. So how old does that make him when he came?
70.
70 years old, yes. Mature years, not a young man, and had to endure so much hardship in the lower side of New York, etc. But the mood that he captured those young people was fully in the heart. He would cook prasadam for them, serve the prasadam, and then clean the place where they had eaten. He wasn't on any kind of showing his Brahminical status in any sort of a way. He was just there for the people to come to the Supreme Lord Krishna, who they had never heard of. They had never heard of this person, Krishna, in the Western world. And today, in the Western world, there are hundreds and thousands, practically millions of devotees in the Western world, all due to this one particular person's dedication to his Guru Maharaj. He would always claim, if there's any credit coming to me, it's only the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's absolute nishta in the Lord and the Lord's arrangement. When he first came to Boston, he was there for practically a year. And it's described that many times he would go down to the harbor where he came, the boat, and look at the lists going back to India and want to go back again because it was so difficult for him. But somehow he didn't and restrained himself, even though one time his typewriter was stolen, you know, his place where he lived was broken into. and so much difficulty he endured, but so patiently, absolutely like a father feeding little children. He didn't try and rush them through to the end conclusion, but just very methodically laying out the Vedic Shastric principles in such a digestible way that the fallen Westerners were able to digest it. I was just saying today that the Westerners, we didn't even know which hand to eat with. We'd never heard of that before. We'd never heard of anything. You know, complete ignorance. The Vedic culture is very prominent and powerful, of course, in India for thousands of years, but it hasn't flourished in the Western worlds at all. So he started from that level, teaching them just eat with your right hand and teaching them how to wash themselves after going to the bathroom, etc. All of these basic things that a regular inhabitant of India today will learn as a child and grow up knowing that automatically. But in the Western world, they didn't know anything, not anything. And bringing them from that level up to an understanding of the precepts of Satchinandan Gaurahari. That is tremendous. His mission was not to prominently put Rag Marg into the world. His mission was, first of all, bring them to Krishna. First of all, give them faith in Vaidhi Bhakti. First of all, bring them through that school. Because without going through that school, then Raganuga Bhakti makes no sense. It would just become Sahajism. And there's a few times when Prabhupada had to crush the misconceptions that some of the devotees were having about what is Raganuga Bhakti. They tried to prematurely enter into that world of the gopis. But sometimes today, it's actually, people might criticize, well, Prabhupada never gave Raganuga Bhakti, but this is so fictitious, so completely not true. He gave it from the very beginning, but they weren't qualified to actually understand it or take it. I think it was practically the very first Radhastami in New York when he had some followers. They all got into a combi van and they went to Central Park, and Prabhupada was saying, now you boys are Sakas and this one is Krishna, and you girls are gopis and this is Radha, and he enacted a whole drama of Radha and Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. This was right at the very beginning. So we should never think for a moment that Prabhupada did not give the highest goal. But there had to be a pathway to digesting that. Those Western devotees could not have digested these supreme truths straight away. So it was a very carefully charted pathway that he brought the devotees through. But today, reflecting after, now we just said 47 years, he left in 77. So if you do the math, 2024 to 47 years. 47 years have transpired. This is how you can tell the worth and greatness of a personality. How much have his teachings endured? If you go to the Krishna Balaram temple today, there's practically not a day in the year when it's not jam-packed. They even have traffic jams regularly out the front of Krishna Balaram now. All the traffic just gets blocked up today. And if you go in Mayapur, some days there are practically millions of wealthy Bengalis. This is the dream that Prabhupada envisaged. He wanted them to come and admire the beautiful gardens, admire the buildings, the samadhi is there, the temple of understanding is going up, and so many amenities are made available. So sometimes someone may criticize and say, oh, but isn't that covering the path of Mahaprabhu and the teachings of Rupa and Goswami and Raghunath? who were advocating such a simple way of life, that he's giving so much opulence there. But this opulence is appealing to opulent people. Prabhupada wanted to capture this. But what I wanted to do today in particular was to demonstrate by reading from this Chaitanya Charitamrita so many places where Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is explaining to follow the teachings of the Brijabasis. He's saying it again and again and again and again in his books, repeatedly. I started to make capture different verses yesterday, and it's just endless. Practically every third or fourth purport of his is mentioning something about the Brijabasis, something about Sri Radhika. Sometimes people seem to consider that he was in Sakya Ras. Perhaps he was in Sakya Ras as well as Madhurya Ras. He would not be in this line unless he was a Manjari. He would not be in this line. This line only has Manjaris in this line. Who is not a Manjari? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Naini Mani Manjari. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kamala Manjari. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Vinod Manjari. Rupa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari. All. Who is not a Manjari? All are Manjaris. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is certainly, and my Gurudeva says conclusively, that he is, without doubt, following this path of Manjari Bhav, which is the principal teaching, or the principal gift, we could say, not teaching, gift, that Mahaprabhu has come to give. When we say this verse, Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuruna Varatino Kalo, Samarapayitam Unnata Ujvala Ras. That's what Mahaprabhu is tasting. And then this Swabhakti Shriyam, this is what he's giving. He's giving the beauty of Radhika. This is the gift of Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada never for a moment neglected that principal teaching and instruction amongst all of the other teachings and instructions on how just to live in the world as a Vaishnava. I mean, it's really, really phenomenal that not just 1 or 2 or 20 or 50 or 100, but thousands of people today are doing their best to follow these teachings of the Shastric direction towards Vaishnavas. We were discussing yesterday the Vaishnava Atar of Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj and Srila Parikrama Maharaj. So he's giving this. At the same time, all these immaculate teachings. He said himself one time that my ecstasies are in my purports. And if we carefully read, especially, actually the same in Srimad Bhagavatam, but especially in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are so many indications where he's saying, follow in the mood, in the wake of the Brijabasis. He said, this is exactly the teachings that we're reading from in Dhammadarastakam. It's the same teachings. My Gurudev used to say always, same teachings, but in a different bottle. Each personality in our line is saying exactly the same thing. This gives us great faith and nishta in the message. It hasn't been interpolated. It hasn't been misinterpreted. It hasn't been changed. You would imagine that coming to the Western world, that something would have to be changed to accommodate the completely different mentality of the people. For example, in the Western world, the young men were used to their whole life associating with women. That's the nature of the Western world. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he made an arrangement for the women to live in the temple simultaneously. He could realize the potency of the women. He needed the women's power in his movement. And there are so many exceptional women devotees that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada made. Yamuna Devi is one of them. But there are so many devotees, female devotees. And this was breaking the tradition of the Gaudiya Math. I can remember in Mathura, there's one very beautiful devotee, Vaishnavi, Uma Didi. And she came from a very high family, actually. And she went through hell living in the Mathura Math. I witnessed the difficulties that she had to put up with. Because no one really, my Gurudev accepted her, but the other devotees couldn't really accept that a woman is living in the mud. She had to have the worst room, and that room would only be for a little while, then she would be changed to another room. She practically had no facility. So she wasn't given any sort of preference at all. And she somehow, because she's a great Vaishnavi, and she had such faith in my Gurudev, she survived that. But it wasn't a place for women, traditionally, in the monastic life or the mats of India. But in the Western world, they were completely accommodated, where they could perform the puja, could dress Thakurji, etc., could do the cooking. They did everything. All the same services. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had the most amazing potency of love and affection. And this is the basis of all our philosophy, is love and affection. My Gurudev said many times, this love and affection. So many disciples, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada disciples, say the same thing, that when he looked at them, they felt he was looking right through them to their very, very souls. That means all the good things and all the bad things simultaneously. He saw everything without a scent of judgment. He was not judging anybody. And this was so endearing. They knew he was absolutely an emissary of the Supreme Lord. Krishna gave him all Shakti. There are descriptions by the devotees seeing him coming off planes, looking like a million suns. The devotees would see him like this. They would see this bright, bright, bright sunshine coming out of Prabhupada. He gave them so much faith. Even today, when the devotees have difficulty, and so many do, they never lose faith in Prabhupada. Never have they. And my Gurudev used to comment, your nishta in your Guru is exemplary, is absolutely top. Because he worked in the mood of complete love. He would forgive and forgive and forgive again and again. If one devotee who was a temple president had been misbehaving and all the devotees were shouting, kick him out, Prabhupada would say, no, he is doing his best. We will try to rectify him, explain the problem, and then let him carry on. He would always try to encourage the bhakti in the hearts of every individual. There's not an individual that he didn't, that he neglected. Always. There's many, many beautiful anecdotes when he was finally opening the wonderful temple here in Vrindavan, the Krishna Balaram temple. So many dignitaries came. All the devotees from around the world came. There were thousands and thousands of devotees there. There was so much going on in the temple. At that time, actually, Prabhupada was very sick, but still he was continuing. And one young girl, she had come from America. And before she came in Los Angeles, her mother gave her a bottle of guava jam to give to Prabhupada. And very shy young girl. And she couldn't come directly in front of Prabhupada because Prabhupada was so busy. She gave to the servant. And the servant carefully gave to Prabhupada and said, oh, this girl from US has given this jam that was made by her mother, guava jam. And Prabhupada took it. And then he told later to the servant, you go and find that girl again. And the servant was looking for perhaps 2 days for that same girl. Finally, she was found, and he said, oh, Prabhupada wants to see you. So she came in to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, my mother used to make guava jam for me.
I am so appreciative of your mother making this guava jam for me. Can you imagine what that must have done for that young girl? Completely melted her heart. And he said, I want your mother's address. And he wrote her mother a letter thanking, he said, I'm looking after your dear daughter. I'm taking good care of her. And thank you so much for the guava jam. My mother also made guava jam. But how amazing, just a very, very small detail amongst the huge drum roll of opening a magnificent temple. Our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada would not neglect the tiniest effort. Just like Lord Ram, when the squirrel is putting the dust to the bridge to Lanka, he doesn't neglect the tiniest effort. This is the symptom of a great, great Mahabhagavat. Yes, they attend to the big things, but also they never neglect the little details on the way. So many anecdotes like that. They have a channel now on the YouTube where the devotees tell their stories. And so many of the stories are just loaded with miracles that happened in the devotees' lives in connection with Prabhupada. Absolutely astonishing events happened in their lives because of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's intervention and changing their whole... How can you give faith in Krishna, a cowherd boy, when they've been brought up at best in a Christian environment of understanding God the Supreme with a long beard sitting on a big throne? How are you going to transition that? No, he's just a young boy in Vrindavan and he's playing with gopis. What? And he's playing with cows. How are you going to transition that into the heart of people? It's a monumental achievement that he actually performed. It's just unbelievable what he performed. Within 10 short years, he established, what was it, 100 temples, I think, or more? 108 temples, perhaps? 108 temples. And thousands of devotees were touched by him. Every single person who ever came into his vision got that spark ignited within him of his pure identity. And it's just going to take time for that to manifest. But what I want to do today is particularly focus on these teachings in his commentaries, in his purports. So in Adi Leela chapter 3, and I've said this before, I've quoted this verse because it's very clear. He's saying, he's talking about the Lord's appearance. This Adi Leela 3 is talking about the external appearance of Sachinandan Gaurahari. And he's saying, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed the transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. He didn't feel that he'd given all the personal understandings of that. One may understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedic literatures and thus become a devotee of the Lord and worship him within the regulative principles described in the scriptures. But one will not know in this way how Krishna is served by the residents of Brajbhumi. Understand? The path of Vaidhi Bhakti is weak, as we've been discussing, exactly the same teaching, because it's founded on rules and regulations, and the principal quality is fear. That's the principal quality of within any religion that is not focused on the supreme reality of pure love. It's based on fear. If you don't follow the rules and regulations, you'll go to hell. That's principally how it's presented. One cannot understand the dealings of the Lord in Vrindavan simply by executing the ritualistic regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures. But I hear many times today, because it seems that the leaders in his original society are not studying his books sufficiently.
because they're not focusing on this aspect of Mahaprabhu's teachings. They're focusing on the external proliferation or the external propaganda of more people, etc. I feel it's almost become like a religion today. When you're living in Navadvip, you can see it's like a religion. But it's very beautiful because the top part of it actually is focusing on Vrindavan Dham. There will be some amongst them. This path of Rag Marg is not for the whole world. The whole world is not going to become attracted to that. Nevertheless, it's still the gift of Mahaprabhu. But it's not that everyone is going to be attracted to Raganuga Bhakti. But Prabhupada himself, in so many places, this is what I want to emphasize today, is pointing this out. One cannot understand the dealings of the Lord in Vrindavan simply by executing the ritualistic regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures. These are Prabhupada's words. By following scriptural injunctions, one may enhance his appreciation for the glories of the Lord. Glories of the Lord are very important, but there's something more than Aishwarya. But there is no chance for one to enter into personal dealings with him. Giving too much attention to understanding the exalted glories of the Lord reduce the chance of one's entering into personal loving affairs with the Lord. He's saying this back in 1973, 1974, 1975, when this was published. This is what he's saying. We should all be understanding clearly what he came to give the precepts of Sachinandan Gaurahari that are described by Rupa and Raghunath. This is why he came. He didn't just come to build, amusement parks and things like this. That's not the purpose of his manifesting in this world. He came to give Brajaprem. To reach the principles of such loving dealings, the Lord decided to appear as Lord Chaitanya. So this is one verse, but there are many, many. All the way through, Prabhupada is referencing this. There's a verse here again in Adi Leela chapter 3. It's saying, Anta Krishna refers to one who is always thinking of Krishna. This attitude is a predominant feature of Srimati Radharani. Even though many devotees always think of Krishna, none can surpass the gopis, among whom Radharani is the leader in thinking of Krishna. Radharani's Krishna consciousness surpasses that of all other devotees. Lord Chaitanya accepted the position of Srimati Radharani to understand Krishna. Therefore, he was always thinking of Krishna in the same way as Radharani. This is Mahaprabhu. It's so beautiful, this Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's just loaded with absolute Braj nectar. It's not about Vaidhi Bhakti. So who is this person of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? No one can ever criticize or say that he didn't give the highest goal. He did, but sometimes it's not understood sufficiently. By thinking of Lord Krishna, he always overlapped Krishna. So it's saying here, again and again, there's so many examples. So, in this fourth chapter, Adi Leela, this is really describing the internal reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent. The third chapter, Adi Leela, describes the chanting of the holy name, which is the potency to enter the internal understanding. If we don't chant Hare Krishna, we were even saying this yesterday, then you won't have the adhikar to actually understand these truths or these precepts. So chanting Hare Krishna must be there. But the purpose of that chanting Hare Krishna is to enter into Braja Ras. There's another purport here. In the third chapter, fourth verse, it has been clearly said that Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to distribute love of Krishna and the chanting of his transcendental holy name, Hare Krishna. That was the secondary purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. The real reason is different, as we'll see in this chapter. It's not just to give the Hare Krishna mantra. Many times I've asked different devotees, you know, why did Mahaprabhu appear? Oh, to give the holy name. That is like the fourth reason he appeared. The first reason he appeared, Premras Niryase Korite, was to taste his own prem. That's why he appeared. And the second reason was to give that prem in the form of Raganuga Bhakti to the world. The third reason was to answer the call of the Advaita Acharya. And the fourth reason is to give the holy name. So Prabhupada is saying all this. So never underestimate this. Again, this is in verse 23 of Adilila 4. And I'm only just saying a little bit. I mean, all the way through this Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are references to Raganuga Bhakti, to service to the Brijvasis. If you look, if you heard about this with faith, and I've personally been blessed by my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, to hear about these topics extensively, because my Guru Maharaj came after Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to accentuate the principal reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent. I can remember sitting in Mawulambar in 1997, and hearing my Gurudev first describe to us Western devotees about this verse, Anapita Chirim Chirat. It just blew my mind completely. I had no idea, I had not been exposed to this understanding previously. None of the teachers had explained this to me, but Srila Narayan Maharaj was explaining it very, very clearly. And as soon as I understood that, then I saw actually Prabhupada is writing about it all the time, but I couldn't see it. It was just missing me. But once you understand that, you'll pick it in every commentary practically. So he's saying here, flawless execution of regulative principles is exhibited in the Vaikuntha planets, but strictly executing these principles, one can be elevated to the Vaikuntha planets, but spontaneous, pure, loving service is found in Krishna Loka alone. Krishna Loka and Goloka are the same. They're not found in Vaikuntha planets. My Gurudev gives this, he unpacks this particular aspect many, many times, the distinction between Vaikuntha, Dwarka, Mathura, and Goloka. And he's saying many times, if we don't understand this distinction, you're still on the Kanishta platform. We have to understand these distinctions in seva, in service, in these different planetary zones, we can say. Devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives their eternal life. O my dear damsels of Braj, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have attained my favor. So Krishnadas Kaviraj is saying this is the translation. Now the purport. Pure devotional service is represented in the activities of the residents of Brajabhumi, Vrindavan. During a solar eclipse, the Lord came from Dwarka and met the inhabitants of Vrindavan at Samanta Panchaka. The meeting was intensely painful for the damsels of Brajabhumi because Lord Krishna had apparently left them to reside in Dwarka, but the Lord obligingly acknowledged the pure devotional service of the damsels of Braj by speaking of them this verse. So that was the verse that Krishnadas Kaviraj was quoting. So all of these very beautiful, intimate explanations by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. Who is Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj receiving these teachings from? Principally, it's Raghunath Das Goswami, who was there with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 14 years in Puri. So who would know the heart better? Who is Raghunath Das Goswami? He's Rati Manjari or Rasa Manjari. This is who he is. They're all I've already said this. So he was receiving instruction from who? From Lalita Saki, who is Swarup Damodar. So what sort of more qualified personality could we get than Raghunath Das Goswami? And he is the one who is infusing these teachings into the heart of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj here on the banks of Radhakund. And then he's writing this beautiful Chaitanya Charitamrita. And all the principal teachings that we have in the Western world in particular, because that's really who I'm addressing today, because it's really the Western world who, of course, he benedicted Bharatvarsh so much, but it was the Westerners who appreciate him and his teachings because they had nothing before he came. Absolutely zero. We had nothing. I'd never even heard of the name Krishna. And then it became popularized. And we thought a new age was going to come of Aquarius or something like that. And this completely fitted in with Prabhupada's mood. Yes, tell them a new age is coming. It's actually Krishna consciousness, but we'll call it Aquarius for now, etc. All of these supports came from the environment for Prabhupada to plant his so deeply into the young men and women of the Western world. It was really remarkable. So, Krishna's Kaviraj is continuing. Mother sometimes binds me as her son. She nourishes and protects me, thinking me utterly helpless. This is what we're hearing in Damodarastakam. My friends climb on my shoulders in pure friendship, saying, what kind of big man are you? You and I are equal. How to transfer this consciousness of Braja Prem into the hearts of people who don't know anything. You start off with Vaidhi Bhakti. It has to be begun this way, and then it will proceed. Someone's commenting that the mood of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's mood of acknowledging the Manjaris doesn't mean that he was necessarily a Manjari. What the Praman is, what my Gurudev has said 3 or 4 times. We can only hear from the Acharyas. And how could anyone sit in this line? Why did Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada sing Jai Radha Madhav every single day of his life practically? Would a Saka sing Jai Radha Madhav every day? Anyway, I don't have any. But if someone wants to think he was in Sakya Ras too, that's very nice. How is a conditioned soul supposed to make some appreciation or judgment on the Staibhav of such a personality? But certainly by all his writings and by what I'm reading you now, today, it would indicate that he was completely focused on Braj Bhumi, especially when we come to the Rai Ramananda Samvad in the 8th Madhya Lila chapter. In there, it's just practically every single page is filled with the sentiments of the gopis. This is when Mahaprabhu becomes inspired to wake up his Sakhi Bhav within him, this Radha Bhav that's coming from Rai Ramananda. And all the commentaries of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they don't have a sort of atmosphere of Sakhi, of Sakya Bhav, of the cowherd boys. They're completely focusing on the Braj Gopis.
Srila Bhaktirakshak Maharaj shared that he's some Manjari of Gopi also.
Huh?
Srila Bhaktirakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, he shared in one of his lectures that he is one of the Manjari or Gopi. He mentioned that name also.
Yes, so Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj is confirming this, and my Gurudev has confirmed this many, many times. And I just can't see how it can be otherwise if someone is so prominently in this line, if they're not of that mood. How can it be that you're sitting in a line with Manjaris, but you're not a Manjari yourself? What does Mahaprabhu want to give? His representatives only want to give this Manjari Bhav. That's the highest conception he wants to give. I don't know how it can be otherwise thought of. The spiritual sky, this is Prabhupada's purport. In the spiritual sky, the Vaikuntha planets are predominated by Narayan. His devotees have the same features as he does, and the exchange of devotion there is on the platform of reverence. But above all these Vaikuntha planets is Golok, or Krishna Loka, where the original personality of Godhead Krishna fully manifests his pleasure potency in free, loving affairs. Since the devotees in the material world know almost nothing about these affairs, the Lord desires to show these affairs to them. In Goloka Vrindavan, there is an exchange of love known as Parakiya Ras. It is something like the attraction of a married woman for a man other than a husband. There's a whole page of commentary here. Why should Prabhupada take so much trouble to describe Parakiya Ras if he himself is in Sakya Ras? It doesn't seem to ring up to me logically. Whatever you want to say, I can never embrace that. So many purports are relating to the confidential attraction between Krishna and the gopis in Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's purports, again and again and again and again and again. It's just completely full of this conception of the gift of Mahaprabhu, the principal gift of Mahaprabhu, that the Gaudiyas are in this line. And this line consists, as we said so many times, of manjaris. So how could he be otherwise? Just doesn't make sense, because one person had a dream one time. Then all of a sudden everything's supposed to change according to one man's dream. So we're following dreamers rather than Shastra, rather than the instructions of the Mahabhagavats, like my Gurudev, like Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, like these different personalities. We're not listening to them, we're listening to a dream. So there are so many purports where Prabhupada is saying so conclusively that unless one follows the unadulterated action of the Hladini Shakti, this is Prabhupada's purport from verse 69, is displayed in the dealings of the damsels of Braj and Srimati Radharani, who is the topmost participant in that transcendental group. The essence of the Hladini Shakti is love of God. The essence of love of God is bhav, or transcendental sentiment, and the highest pitch of that bhav is called Mahabhav. Srimati Radharani is the personified embodiment of these three aspects of transcendental consciousness. She is therefore the highest principle in love of Godhead and is the supreme lovable object of Sri Krishna. If we read, for example, the beautiful descriptions by Vrindavan Das Thakur in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Vrindavan Das Thakur, he is in Sakya Ras. He is the last disciple initiated by Nityananda Prabhu. So you don't find so much direction towards Brajaras in the Chaitanya Bhagavat as you do in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a different mood, because one, Vrindavan Das Thakur, is a Saka, and that comes out very prominently. He doesn't actually go to the very confidential pastimes in the Gambhira. He doesn't go to there, because his bhav is Sakya-ras, and it's not compatible with the descriptions between Swarup Damodar, Rai Ramananda and Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira. So we see these categorically different moods. But in here, and why did Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada choose to give us this Chaitanya Charitamrita with his commentaries and not the Chaitanya Bhagavat? If he'd been in Sakya Ras, wouldn't he have been more inclined to have given us the Chaitanya Bhagavat? Wouldn't that have been his inclination if he was genuinely in Sakya Ras? But he's not. He's a Manjari. Of course he's a Manjari. There's no argument here. Krishna cannot enjoy anything that is internally different from him. Therefore, Radha and Krishna are identical. Krishna and the same internal potency in the Hladini Preacher has presented Srimati Radharani, who is the attraction for the all attractive. No one can match Srimati Radharani in the transcendental pastimes of Sri Krishna. How much more rasik do we want to appreciate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? It's full. It's just absolutely all the way through loaded. I'm looking at Adi Leela chapter 4, all of these different commentaries here. And it just increases more and more and more. Almost every time. The personal associates of Srimati Radharani, the damsels of Braj, are direct expansions of her body, as expansions of her personal form and transcendental disposition. They are agents of different reciprocations of love in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, under the supreme direction of Srimati Radharani. In the transcendental realm, enjoyment is fully relished in variety. The exuberance of transcendental mellows is increased in the association of a large number of personalities similar to Radharani, the gopis or manjaris, who are also known as gopis or sakhis. The variety of innumerable mistresses is a source of relish for Sri Krishna, and therefore these expansions from Srimati Radharani are necessary for enhancing the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. Their transcendental exchanges of love are of the super excellent affairs of the pastimes of Vrindavan. He's not talking about Sakhya Ras, is he? How can... Anyway, that's immaterial. By these expansions of Srimati Radharani, Rani's personal body, she helps Sri Krishna taste the rasa dance and other similar activities. Srimati Radharani, being the central petal of the Rasa Leela flower, is also known by the names found in the following verses. So there's beautiful verses that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj gives us. So my point here is not to prove that Sakhya Ras is not bona fide particularly, but my point is to prove how rasik was Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This is my purpose in reading these, is that to appreciate fully his absolute rasik nature, even though it appears he was distributing Vaidhi Bhakti to the masses at that time. But where was his heart? And he has said himself, these ecstasies are my heart. These purports are my ecstasies. The ecstasies exist in the heart. So this is what he's giving us in his commentaries. And also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, as I've said before, he includes many geets that in his whole purport, he gives us the whole Brahmara Geet. Every single verse he's giving in his purport. Why would he give something like this? He wants to nourish our attention on what is Braj Prem, what is Braja Ras, because this is the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wants to give this Svabhakti Shriyam. This is what he wants to give. This is what he came to give. Are we following Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das and Sanatan Goswami? These are personalities who we're following. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is most assuredly following these immense luminaries in our line. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of course he's following. And he's showing through his commentaries. But if we read these without appreciating the significance of the reality of the spiritual world, because someone of the caliber of Bhaktivedanta Swami, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, because he was so eagerly wanting to establish the fidelity of this Rag Marg, because Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada didn't focus exclusively on that. He was focusing in his teachings on actually just training these animals to become like Vaishnavas, which he succeeded in doing. And that is an amazing accomplishment in itself, instilling faith in the Supreme Lord. That is phenomenal. Coming from nothing to coming from praising and glorifying Krishna in Vaidhi is amazing. But there is another stage that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada refers to throughout his commentaries in this Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the way through. It's over and over and over and over again, non-stop. So this is my Gurudev says, we'll post a little video that was on the thread this morning, where my Gurudev said, this is the main reason why Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada came. He performed many miracles in the world of transforming the animals into humans by chanting Hare Krishna, by coming to a belief in the Supreme Lord. That is an absolute miracle, but it was all with the intention of bringing them to the transcendental place of understanding the reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent, for understanding who is Mahaprabhu. There was a video came today on this. You can post it.
And 1 minute.
Huh?
1 minute video, 1.5.
Yes, yes, you can post it. And Prabhupada himself is saying, there's a clip with Prabhupada speaking in there. So this is all I wanted to really establish today. I think we're all very familiar with the absolute glories of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his totally out of this world loving dealings with his devotees. So much. We are so grateful, immensely grateful. Our gratitude can never be expressed sufficiently for this personality being sent into this world to relieve us of the dark confusion of the world. He commented on everything, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In his letters and so on, there are so many revelations about how the future will unfold for us in this Kali Yuga, how things will degenerate. He wanted to have farming communities so the devotees would be safe. He loved the devotees in every single way. He showed his affection for the devotees in love. So this is the most powerful force in the world, is love. Nothing is more powerful than love. And this is where his whole energy was fueled by this mood of love, this loving devotion. This is why he was able to achieve such phenomenal results through the power of love. Huge Ratha Yatras in England, for example. England, the conquerors of India. And here is India coming back at Nelson's column to conquer England with having Vedic fire sacrifices around the feet of Lord Nelson. I mean, how amazing. Prabhupada was asked when he first arrived, oh, why have you come to England? And he said, because the English, they plundered India of everything. But there's one thing they didn't take, and I've come to give them that. Now I've come to give it to them. They should take everything. They should take the wealth of the knowledge that is in India. So nothing was missing. Nothing. There's nothing missing in the total synchronicity between Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. Completely harmonious in all of their teachings, totally in sync. There's nothing distinct, yet different people choose to make sort of like sectarian judgments on these things, but it doesn't help with our bhakti. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Rupa Goswami Raghunath Das Goswami Pada ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Go Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vivacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo, Vaishnave Namo Namaha.